Welcome to the Easy Project with your boy Eddie.
And your boy Zebby T. This podcast is about athletes transitioning into business and also the business leaders around the Gold Coast.
And Zebby and I have played NRL for 10 plus years.
And we're utilising the skills that we've learned over our NRL career to inspire others to chase their dreams and goals. Let's go!
Welcome to the Easy Project with my boy Zebby and myself Eddie. We've got a special guest on this podcast today, Thunderstorm Artis.
Welcome.
What up, y'all?
Welcome. Hey, man. Hey, this is a good
one.
This is a good one. Like we always do, we give our guests their flowers, man. So I'll give you a nice little intro before we get into it. So Thunderstorm Artis is a talented singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist known for his powerful vocals and skilled guitar work. His music blends island vibes with real-life stories, drawing comparisons to artists like Passenger and Leon Bridges, season 18 finalist on The Voice America. Okay, he now travels the world performing and writing songs. Artis enjoys life with his wife, Faith, their son Ezekiel, and they are excitedly expecting another baby boy. Welcome to the Easy Project.
Yeah, look at that.
Thunderstorm.
Look at that, bro.
Hey, was that
the
good?
intro. That was pretty good, dude. That was pretty solid.
Hey, man, sometimes I struggle, but I feel like I nailed that all right. Did I nail
You
that?
did everything perfect.
Nah, it's good.
I need to
welcome.
take a clip of that, just put that on my bio on my Instagram.
Yeah, let's go.
It's all right. Hey, I'll send you it. You got that, bro. You got that. Let's go.
Hey, we know you're big in music, and I want you to share us a tune.
Share a
for us.
tune. All
Hey,
right,
man, give us an easy
us
tune,
a-
bro. We talk about easy chats, but I want to
Easy tune, eh?
want to give our audience
Sing us.
what they're listening to,
Get your eyes.
what they're
get your eyes
dealing
on
with today. Man, this is gonna be
Probably
good.
push the mic closer here.
Let's go.
Yeah, that should be good. I got a loud voice. Well, I'll do this song that really changed a lot for me. This song's called Blackbird. It was my blind audition song when I was on The Voice.
Yes.
I remember, yes.
Got me 4 chairs turned, and yeah, it goes just like this. Blackbird singing a dead off night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. And all your life, you were only waiting for a small moment to arrive. Blackbird fly. Blackbird fly to the light of the cold dark night. Blackbird singing in a dead off night, to take these sunken eyes and learn to see. And all your life, say you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly. So blackbird fly, singing notes to light. Into the cold, cold dark night.
Yeah, bro,
Wow,
standing
man.
ovation.
Hey, that's a first, man.
Wow,
Oh, wow.
There we go.
Thanks.
There's
Hey,
There's a little bit
thanks,
of it.
Thanks for
A
A little bit of
sharing, man.
Beatles.
That's amazing, bro. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Because I remember watching that when you were auditioning at that time. And then you just started with, and I was like, oh, already? The guy hasn't sang, mate.
Hey, we were like we were just meeting up, and we actually watched it. And we were just actually watching it, and it's crazy, man. We didn't tell you to sing that song, but you just sang it. How good.
Oh, man.
That's mad.
Wow, that's
Gotta
cool.
do it. You gotta
Yeah.
do it. No, it's really funny. You were talking about the buttons when they push it. So when you're recording it, they don't have those sounds.
Oh,
Like,
right.
so you have no idea, like, unless your eyes are open, like, if they turn around or not. And so I, like, as you probably tell with that performance we just saw, I love to kind of close my eyes and go into myself and the emotions because I love it.
Yeah.
My stage coach, her name was Stacy. She freaking hated it. She was like, don't close your eyes. They're like the window to your soul. And it's not important what you're doing with your hands. And I was like, have you ever played Blackbird? You're literally up and down the neck. But I remember that halfway through the performance that I needed to open my eyes. And when I did, it was like freaking Nick Jonas was like staring me down. And I was like, oh, dude, I better not mess it up. And it was a crazy, surreal experience, man. Just being on that stage and that opportunity, like, experience nothing like it.
Ah, that's mad ass. Just hearing it. Yeah. I know,
Man,
we were
I
just
like
watching it.
tingles, man.
And then you do it. I was like,
I was so nervous.
actually,
Yeah. Actually, if you go back and you listen to it, it's like when I do open my eyes, there's an extra vibrato that goes into my voice. Cause I was just like, don't mess it up, Thunder. Don't mess it up. But dude, it was so much fun.
nah, that's awesome. All right, let's get started. Give us a rundown about your journey, you growing up, where you grew up as well, and your family as well. Give us a rundown,
So yeah, my full name is crazy long. It's actually Thunderstorm Artis. I was born and raised on Oahu, Hawaii. I was born in this town called Kailua, raised in this town called Haleiwa. Grew up in a family of 11 kids, 6 boys and 5 girls. I'm number 7, so that's where I got the crazy name. My oldest brother, his name is Ron. We're just gonna leave that. But no, we grew up in a musical family. My parents, they met in Motown. And then they decided to leave like the music industry in like the late 80s, early 90s, move to Hawaii and teach my family about God, about family, and about music. Nice. And so none of us were forced into music, but my dad was like, if you want to learn, I'm going to teach you the best way that I know how. And he was just like, if you want to be good, like when you mess up, I'm going to be your worst enemy. And when you do something well, I'll be your best friend. And it was the greatest like criticism to kind of grow up under. And so I kind of grew up under that kind of atmosphere. Just me and my family, we played music out of our living room on the North Shore. You can find some funny videos when I was just a little kiddo. If you look up like Ron Artis Family Band on like YouTube. True. And every day we were homeschooled kids. So every day between 11 and 5, we ran our shop. People would come through. Like they had tour buses would show up and listen to us play music. But I didn't start singing until my father passed away when I was like 13, 14 years old. And that's when I started to more so write music and perform a little bit, not even really perform as far as just like on my own. It was more a form of therapy for me. Because just being an introverted dude, like I had no place to put those emotions in my life. And I was 13, my youngest sibling was like 4. And so like you kind of like, you guys know how it is with big families and stuff, you know, you step up, you're like, I got to carry the weight, you got to carry the mantle. And so in that way, at the same time, I convinced myself that those emotions weren't important or weren't important for me to face them like in the now. And I think so music just really became that outlet for me. And then when I started to realize that like my therapy could be therapy for others, that's what kind of sparked the spark in me to kind of get out there and start singing a little bit more kind of outside of just my living room. And my oldest brother is Ron. I have to thank for that. Like he really took me under his wing, and that's when I started to travel. Because we started talking about that. You're like, did I always travel a lot, tour? The first time I ever traveled, I went with him to Germany for 6 weeks, and it was my first ever winter. I thought that you can wear a couple sweaters and be fine.
Not in Europe.
Not in Europe.
Not in Europe.
The cold hits a little different than just 60 degrees in Fahrenheit in Hawaii. But yeah, that's a little bit backstory. I'm sure we can get into a bunch of stuff, so I don't want to like do the whole spill, and just in case you guys have questions or stuff.
What's the age gap between Ron and yourself? Like,
we're 9 years apart.
True.
9 years, but I actually have a sister that's older. So I'm 10 years younger than the eldest in my family, and 10 years older than the youngest one.
So you're the middle.
Damn,
Yeah,
the middle.
middle as far as age, man. I'm in everyone's business.
That's it. I always in everyone's business when you're a middle child, man.
Everyone's always calling you
Yeah.
with problems and things, and like, hey, this one said this to me. What are you gonna do?
So you said obviously you guys are a musical family.
Yeah.
Was there the one that like in the family you're like, nah, he's gonna be the one?
My oldest brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like still to today, like he's my favorite guitarist. Like he's always been like, whenever like when I was on The Voice and all this stuff, and I'm like, man, I did it. Like he always finds a way to like, do something that I look at. I'm like, man, like I'm inspired by that. I need to work harder.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he's doing projects with a lot of crazy cool artists in the U.S. And we both now live in Nashville, and he's just always kind of been that, I don't know, that true north for me, especially in the industry. It can get really tricky as far as compromising your character. And my brother has got the success he's had without compromising the very fabrics of who he is.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's always been an inspiration. So yeah, from a young age, I was always like, man, Ron, like he's going to do it. He's going to be fine.
Yeah,
He's just that talented. He's insane.
Man, that's crazy, eh?
That's good, man.
Like a family of 11. Yeah. Right. How did your mom and dad, like, obviously keep you guys together, man? Like, what about the food? And
yeah, I mean, my mom always said it was easier to cook for a big group than it was to cook for a small one.
Oh, wow.
And so we would do big portion meals, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you got spaghetti, bolognese, things like that. You got like beans, rice, you got like whatever. We all can eat, like, but we can all cook as well.
Yeah.
So all my sisters and some of the brothers were all pretty good cooks.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we would all pitch in and do it. And so like after a moment of time, like it's kind of like each other are kind of raising one another.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it was really kind of like the lessons and examples that like our parents set out for us.
Yeah.
That like even after my father passing was things that like I still live by.
Yeah.
And like one of the great things he would always say was like, do as I do, not as I say.
Yeah.
So he was like, it's all about accountability. So he was just like, I'm gonna live a lifestyle that I'm gonna call you guys to live as well.
Yeah.
If you see me not doing that, call me on it. And if I see you not doing it, I'm gonna call you on it.
That's
So we're just gonna hold each other accountable. And it was just like kind of even that layer. And it was a cool thing to kind of grow up and watch, you know, because it's like usually you have a parent that's like living a complete different lifestyle and like you'll understand someday. So having a father or a parent who really, you know, just he was a tough dude too, man. He was a strong man. And he just set that example to have 11 kids. I'm going on my second one, so I know how much work it can be. And, you know, kids are always watching the things that you say and the things that you don't say and the things that you do when you think they're not watching. And so I'm really thankful for how they raised us. You know, it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows. There was definitely a lot of hardships. That's just how it is. But the good parts of it, man, like it made me the man that I am today. I'm happy for that.
That's awesome.
What was it like on those you know, on those holidays, you know, like when you have, you know, your Christmases, your New Year's, man, like can picture your household being like probably the best place to hang out.
Yeah, I mean, well, my family, we are crazy competitive in everything but music. Yeah. So when you do come around our house around the holidays, everyone would think that we're all grabbing guitars and we're singing. No, it's like the video games are on. It's the competitions. Everyone's talking about their old records. And or it's either that or American football is really big. So usually we would go out and either if there's a patch of grass somewhere play, or sometimes like when we were a lot younger, just on the pavement, you know, just how you did it. And it's funny. It's all fun and games until it's the last couple points. And then all of a sudden someone's getting smacked hard ass like on the pavement.
We're on.
We're on. You're like, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. It's like, but so it's like holidays. This past Thanksgiving in America was the first time we kind of all got together for a holiday. And that was so much fun just to get everyone under the same roof. Like, it's kind of crazy, you know, the older you get, you kind of, when you're young, you think it's always going to be that way. And then you kind of grow up and you start having kids and having a family. You're like, oh, man, I haven't, like, hung out with my brother in a good bit. So it's good. I think it's so important to get family together.
I feel like you take those moments for granted. Like,
big time.
man, I love that. I love hanging out with the family all the time. It's just like, that's the way life was, though. But like, then when you get older, and you're trying to emulate that with your own family, it's just not the same.
Just not the same. It's just not.
Can imagine the cookouts, eh?
Oh, man. And it's good that you guys said that you're all mad cooks too.
So, I know. We're coming.
Yeah.
When's the next trip, man? We're coming. We're flying over, man.
To Australia, man.
I will say this. Now, some of us are good cooks. Some of us are a little experimental with what they do. Like, I have one brother, man, that decided one day he wanted to put chocolate and pineapple in pasta.
No
What?
way. What the?
Any good?
No, bro. It sucked. But he was like, this is like the best thing ever. Like, you just gotta give it a chance. And I was like, I don't know who you eating with. No, but it's fun, man. We take it for granted. I think where I started to realize it, because I started touring a lot with my brother when I was like 16, 18, like all that kind of stuff. And I remember going to like a movie theater when I started to go solo, like around like in my 20s.
Yeah.
And I remember watching a movie because my family, we love movies. And then I would like turn to someone on my left to like, hey, did you see that? And I was like, oh, dude, they just don't get it. Like, you can't have that communication. And I was like, man, it's so important to have your family. So now I'm trying to convince everyone to move to Nashville. We got one brother there. We're going to slowly migrate the rest.
Get them all over. But Hawaii is a good place to be, man.
It
I
is.
like Hawaii. Eh?
I love Hawaii. It's expensive as, man.
It is,
But the family culture of Hawaii, that's like the best thing, man. Like you get there and it's just all smiles. It's aloha spirit. It's like everyone's your auntie, everyone's your uncle.
Yeah.
Like everyone's connected. And that's something I love about Hawaii. And I'm going there kind of right after I get back from Australia, actually. I'll go over to Hawaii, over to Maui, and then over to Oahu for a couple of days. And
Nice.
every time I go back, I look forward to it. And definitely want to plant my roots there later on. It's a hard place to tour from.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part, is because it's expensive and it's hard to tour from. A lot of the really talented artists, we have to kind of move out for a bit, and then we can come back later on. So
That's awesome, man. So I know, I've seen that your old man was a big part of your journey.
yeah,
It said that he played piano with for the Thriller.
yeah.
Michael Jackson, man.
He worked with Michael Jackson on the Thriller one, man. He worked also in this group called Shalimar. He worked underneath this guy named Norman Whitfield that was in Motown, and he worked on a lot of the big songs back in the day, man. Like that dude had a legacy, man, and like, but he was like the most important thing to him was his kids.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
why he left it all, man, and just poured into us. Like poured us, like you can't, like you said, like we take those things for granted. You can't take those moments. You're like, you don't know what you're talking about sometimes, and then like the older you get, you're like, and the more I start to navigate the music industry, I'm like, wow, like all the things that he was talking and the things he instilled in us, man, they're so important. Like if I didn't have that, I would be in the wrong side of the deal like 5 times over right now.
Can you remember back to when you were young, and you can remember your dad like trying to influence you, but like sometimes you just go, yeah, whatever, dad.
Yeah, I mean, it was more so with my mom that I was kind of like, whatever. Like my mom was the first person who knew I could sing.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think I was going to be a singer. I wanted to be a rapper and a drummer, actually.
Ooh, yes.
But every morning early, I would wake up, and the only songs I love to sing were like old jazz standards, like Tenderly, like this song called Autumn Leaves and stuff. And it was what my mom and dad would sing together when they would do little pub shows and stuff. And but my mom, she would come at like 5 a.m. in the morning, like down to the basement or whatever, and just be like, hey, try this or try that. And I was like, I'm not a singer. I don't need advice. I'm never going to use it. Then she would leave, and I would practice everything she told me. That's what teenagers do, right?
Let me try this out.
But I was a really quiet kid, especially when my dad was around. I was more like, because he would wake up every morning at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And so I remember just kind of like, man, I'd love to wake up and just kind of be in a shadow and kind of just like listen to what he was teaching my brothers. Because being a younger sibling, you hear a lot of the hard like debates between him and my oldest brothers and things like that, of like about music theory, about life, about choices and stuff. So I was just more kind of times like being a fly on the wall and just listening to these lessons. And I feel like that's why I retained a lot of it, because I was very much the kind of like, you learn more from listening than you do from talking.
Yeah.
So take time to be quiet and just kind of soak it up. And so then when you're kind of out in the world, you kind of have those things that kind of, I've like anything wise that I say to anyone, I'm like, dude, I learned that from someone like my dad or the men that spoke into my lives.
Yeah. That's crazy, bro. Because then you go from there, obviously, you're seeing America's huge. Like, there's that many good singers out there. And for you to make The Voice, like, we're going to go into The Voice now.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
It was funny, dude. It was crazy. It was funny. I wasn't even like looking to be on The Voice. True. I don't know if I'm supposed to like say that, like, but like my family, we kind of had a thing too. Like it was a big deal for my family to be on that show, because like none of us ever done any sort of music competition.
Wow.
It was like we kind of like were almost like anti-music competitions.
Yeah.
Because we were like, how can you say who's better, Michael Jackson or Bob Marley?
Yeah.
Like they both influenced like so many, but how could you say who's a better singer? You know what I mean? So we were like, how can you do a music competition? So that was like our mindset. And so I remember though, like we're a Christian family, and that was my year of just like God, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
And if an opportunity kind of presents itself, I'm going to step through the door and I'm going to give it a chance. And it all started with video games. I was sitting on the couch playing this video game called Metal Gear Solid, and I beat it. And I was like, so proud of myself. Then I realized I accomplished absolutely nothing in my life.
And so that game, Solid, that was a main game.
Main game, bro. Like, there's a bunch of like side quests and secret things to do. I'm like one of those guys that grind for hours.
Yeah.
So I did that. So I grabbed my guitar And I went down to my friend's ice cream store, and I just sat up on the street, and I just played music to the open air.
Wow.
And this gentleman and his family, they stopped and they listened for about an hour. And then he was like, I was like, man, you listened for so long, I need to stop and talk to this dude.
Yeah.
He turned out to be this movie director for the movie Crazy Rich Asians, In the Heights, and the movie coming out called Wicked. And he was like, dude, I really love your sound. I love what you're doing. Would love if you came to my wedding and wrote the song for our first dance.
Wow.
And then, I mean, all of them playing video games, right? Crazy. Yeah. And then flew me out to California to do that, and then recommended me to The Voice, and The Voice reached out. And so I was like, so I went to LA, did a thing for the producers, sang a couple songs, and didn't know like if it was going to be good or bad. And once again, like I was just a kid from a small town. Like I didn't think anything of it. Same thing what you're saying, like there's so many crazy artists in the world. I'm like, dude, how could me be picked for an opportunity like that? Yeah. And so everything from the blind audition on was just like, it was a God experience for me. And I was like, whether or not I win the thing, like I had learned so much and learned to value myself a lot more through that experience. It was crazy. Yeah.
Damn, man. Imagine like being on The Voice, like you got like, obviously in America, it's like millions of people that are trying out for this, for The Voice. And like, did you see yourself go from like, nah, I want to crack it here? Or was it just, you're just with the flow? Got the invitation, I'm in, just have a crack?
No, I mean, I got the invitation. I mean, you get into it like, I think it's like the battle knockout where you're like, oh man, I made it made it pretty far. Like I could win this thing. Yeah. And so that's where it's like, it kind of got like, I could win this thing. I mean, on the other side, on the business side of it, I knew about their contracts. Okay. And their contracts are crazy. So I was also afraid, like if I won it, like what that contract stuff would look like. Not that influenced me winning or losing or any way. And that, like, I'm not that kind of dude is like the only way that person won was because I didn't want to win. Like I'm not saying that at all. But when I got close to the end, I was like, dude, I could win this. And when you're standing there and you're on stage, it's you and two other people, and they're like saying the names, like you're like, dude, they're gonna say my name, like I'm gonna win this thing. And like it was an insane experience. And just to I went for that point of being like, man, like I'm going with the flow. Let me learn. I think the best thing that I did in that situation, which to kind of pivot to what I think you guys' podcast is more about, it's kind of like the aftermath. After you have a big opportunity, whether it's like footy, whether it's like The Voice, or like whatever it is, your line of work, after that, what comes after. That was more my focus even while I was on the show.
That's nice.
What was like, what am I going to learn from this and how can I implement it? Because one of the things I really loved they talked about was like, hey guys, like there's thousands of you who have tried out for this. There's only going to be one winner. And what you make of this experience is what you make of it. Yeah. So if that's your only focus, like you're going to leave whether winning or losing that, and you're going to be defeated. Yeah. So it's like, or else you can take and you can learn, and then you can like figure out how to implement this into your life. Yeah. And so I was really thankful for my vocal coach. I was really thankful for the producers on the show who really kind of just poured into me, and and the coaches. I mean, still to today, like John Legend keeps in contact. And like I chat with him every once in a while, and like kind of helps me navigate like the music industry and contracts and stuff. But really, because I was like, man, we all have that uncle, or at least I do, like that you're around the campfire and they're talking about what they did 30 years ago. Yeah. And like your successor in your past. Yeah. But it's like, how can you start pushing for success that's going to be in your future? Yeah. That's going to, put my kids through college and stuff. And so that's one of the things I was thinking about on the show was like, man, how can I take this experience and start to move that over to my musical career, start to touring, but then also not make it always just about The Voice, but about who I am as an artist, who I am as a writer, who I am as a person, who I am as a brand. And so that was a fun experience kind of coming out of that.
Wow, that's mad, man.
Yeah, that's so good.
Because at the time, you were young too. So like for you to have that mentality to be like, okay, I got to start thinking outside of like what I want to do after The Voice and start leveraging off that, because a lot of young guys would just go out there, kill it, and then be like, nah, let's relax now. Just chill out. So it's good to see someone like yourself at a young age take that thought process of, okay, what to do next. And what was the process like? What did you do to implement that? Because now you're traveling a lot, doing a lot of gigs everywhere. Yeah. What was the process like?
So going into it, as far as just my team, it was just me and a booking agent. kind of going into it. So I knew that as things were gonna, because I could manage it at that point. You know, we were doing like little small gigs and weddings and some small tours here and there. But I knew that, okay, I need to build a team around me. So I needed to find a good manager. I needed to find a good entertainment lawyer. Started really bolster up on just the team to be able to deal with the sheer amount of things coming in. But it was also COVID.
Yeah.
And so I knew that, like, okay, before COVID, like, I just had an inclination that, like, before COVID's over, there's going to be probably 2 other seasons. So there's a good chance that I might become a little bit of old news by the time that we can get out and tour.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how can we start bolstering and capturing the audience that I have that attention of, that's on social media, that's streaming the music. So it's like, okay, I need to release better quality music.
Yeah.
I need to find the right teams to work with. Trying not to be tied down by like any label at that point, because if they value at a certain thing and then you agree to it, they want to hold you for like sometimes 10, 20 years at that level. So it's like making sure you don't commit to the bells and fireworks to come at you right away. And so it's been, there's been the ups, and then I got married. Like I met my wife I met Faith, like while I was on The Voice. Like I shot my blind audition. They sent me back to Hawaii. I met her there, and we got married April 10th of 2020 during my live round of The Voice. So then I was like, man, I'm not just providing for myself. I have to provide for my wife and my family, like my line of work. And I was raised to like, not that my wife can't work, but I don't want her to ever have to work. And that's just the way that I am. So I was like, how am I going to provide? And so that, even more like as a young dude, it took my focus from being like a buckshot to being just like focused, like everything needs to matter. And so I like building a good team is so important. Focus on like what you're going to do on social media as far as content, releasing good quality music, and then finding where your audiences are and touring to those places. And then like the music industry is all about relationships. So I got to tour with artists such as Jack Johnson. I got to tour with Train a couple years back to back. And then with the Zac Brown Band, and then I got to tour with my brother, and then I did my own headline tours around the U.S. And so it's been really cool. I got to play iconic venues such as like the Red Rock Amphitheater, the Hollywood Bowl, the Santa Barbara Bowl. Like there's just venues that like I've dreamed of playing, and I've got to play that afterwards and just kind of watch that grow. But I started to keep working on myself. And then moving from Oregon to Nashville was from a lesson that my father taught me, talking about remembering. He was like, you want to keep yourself humble and in a state of learning. Surround yourself with people who are better than you. That's because he's like, if you're the best person, like if you're the badass person in your town, you're gonna stop growing. Like you're gonna become comfortable, and when you're complacent and comfortable, that's where it's like if there's a river that's not flowing, that's where all the bad crap grows. But if it's flowing, like it's clear. And so he's like, you got to be around people who are pushing you. So that's why I moved to Nashville, just to be around better writers, better singer-songwriters, better guitar players that can push me to keep growing, so I can kind of see like where my limit's at. And that's just kind of been my journey, and I'm still on it. It's fun. It's the peaks and valleys. But it's fun. I love it.
That's cool as, man.
What's like? Give us a day in the life of what a singer does, because like you think about you've got a beautiful wife and you got a kid on the way and another kid. What does that look like? Day in the life of a singer. Like, are you just on the grind, just 24/7, or do you find time?
I mean, I try to find time. I really try to find time. Like I used to kind of burden the candle at both ends, and at times I'm still guilty of it because it's like, you know what they say, work for yourself. You never work a day of your life. That's a lie. You work 24/7, like, you know what I mean? And when you're not working, you're still working. Like you're thinking about it constantly. Like you're thinking about, and it's crazy because it's like, it's not just the concerts, like performing music, playing songs. That's the fun part. It's the music business part. It's really a grind. It's like releasing the music. You might have a song that like you really, really love and enjoy, but your audience might not connect with it. So then it's like figuring out how can you build the narrative around it so that people connect with it. And then it's figuring out how you can build a team that can see that vision and that value you the way you value yourself, and learning to value yourself in that. But day of the life, like, you're waking up in the morning. Usually I have a meeting with my manager. We're usually going over like bookings and touring for all of 2024. and then maybe into 2025 what that touring's looking like, because most shows and festivals are booking like 6 to 8 months out.
Wow.
So like you need to try to get on that and figure out what's that going to look like, and then you're like, I need to still release my debut album. I've been releasing singles and EPs ever since like being on The Voice and waiting for the right team to be able to release an album with.
True.
So then we have like 4 or 5 different labels that are interested right now. So just kind of going through their deals and looking at the pros and cons. And then like I'm usually traveling and touring. So I'm usually like, I take morning flights. So I'm usually like 4 a.m., 6 a.m. kind of flights in and out. And if my family can't be with me, then that's a lot harder.
Yeah.
But yeah, so day in and day out, it's kind of on and off. You kind of control your own day. You can either be lazy and do nothing, or you can kind of like fill your schedule out. Like, how can we push this? How can we grow it? Because it's like, if I stop working, the ship stops.
Yeah.
And so that's why like vacation's hard for me, because it's like, and like when I'm like learning, how can I like step back for a little bit?
Yeah.
And then sometimes when you do step back for a bit, you can come back and you can work it even harder.
Yeah.
Because if you're depleted and you're just working, then you're just giving out of emptiness, and you're just gonna kill yourself.
100%.
Have you ever felt like that though? Like when you've like overworked and it's affected your mental health and all that kind of stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. No, dude, 100%. I felt like that, and it affects my mental health. It affects my family. It affects. I mean, everything. It affects my quality of music. It affects the quality of shows. Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree on that. And then there's one of those sayings though that are so important that I try to remember. It's like the same when like helping others. It's like sometimes when we try to be the anchor for everybody else, we don't realize that it's us who's drowning.
Yeah.
And sometimes I realize that it's like, if we're giving out of the emptiness of who we are, man, then we're just depleted and we're exhausted. So I had to find hobbies and things that pour into me that allow me to kind of release. And one of those things have been like golf, pickleball, like, you know, like video
Golfer,
games.
let's go. Oh, you know,
he's
you
a
talk
golfer.
my language.
I love a good round of golf.
Yes.
I love
It takes like good 5 hours to complete an 18-hole course. Eh?
yeah, but the beautiful thing about it is it gets you outdoors.
Yeah, true.
You're off your phone, because
Yeah.
usually time you're not really allowed to be on your phone on a golf course. So you're having to, and the whole thing is, I love chess. The whole thing is a chess match, but the whole thing is a battle against yourself.
Yeah.
Like I can be playing with 4 mates, 3 mates, whatever. But like if I'm out there, I'm playing against myself. And every round you play is a different round of golf. It's a different puzzle to solve. So it's a good way to kind of reset and recalibrate your brain. And I just love it.
Yeah.
And so it's a good way for me to decompress and kind of pour into myself and take time to be out in nature, and be out in the sun. Because
That's good.
like I could be like in a chair like this 24/7 in my house,
know.
like just writing music and connecting or doing online stuff. And then you don't really get outside. You don't really get out and freaking hear the birds and like hear the wind blowing through the trees. Like I used to hike like constantly as a kid growing up. And so it's like remembering to do those things, because that's what inspired the quality of music that I released early on. That's why you see a lot of artists, like their first album, it's like their best album.
Yeah.
And then their second album, it's like, it's not as good.
Yeah.
Because they were living life when they wrote that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if they're touring, they're on the road, they're around people that like, people who are kind of just pouring into you. You're no longer writing for your heart and soul. You're writing for what you think people might like. And then that's where it gets kind of tricky.
Is that challenging as well? Because obviously you're a songwriter now, and you're touring a lot, so you see the same stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Where do you get your ideas of writing? Is it from other people as well, or do you write them more yourself?
No. I would say like I try to live life when I'm on the road as well.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I've been loving to implement into my live concerts, which has been really fun. These last couple like solo ones, which is kind of like throughout the show, I kind of have this like little banter that's like almost like a Q&A between me and the audience. Where like I'm like, if anyone has a random question or random thought, raise your hand like at Sunday school.
Yeah.
And like let's have a conversation throughout the show. And so sometimes like I won't have a set list.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone will be like, dude, I really want to hear this song. Or there's a couple shows where people were like, what was the first song you ever wrote? I'm like, dude, I don't remember it, but like we can improv something.
Yeah.
So like I'll get keywords for people in the audience and we'll improv something. Or I'll get up there and I'll talk about how I love golf and pickleball.
Yeah.
And then someone in the audience would be like, this happened like 4 times like on the road, like, hey, like we work at our country club or we go to a country club that's in town. You want to come golf with us tomorrow? I'm like, dude, let's do it. Like I'm not on the road till like 12. So like, let's play a round of golf in the morning. And you get out there and you meet people. Yeah. And it really kind of breaks the barrier between the artist and the person. Cause I feel like I grew up where like, there's no difference between the artist and the the artist and the plumber. Like we have the same job. Like it's like we're all giving to life in the same way. Like in everything we do, like there's no difference. There's no hierarchy of what's more important or whatnot. But yeah, I try to live life. I do have a couple guys that I do write music with in Nashville, but I definitely try to never go and just take someone else's idea. Because if my heart and soul is in it, my heart and soul is not in it, when I'm on stage and singing that song, I can't connect to it. It's even the cover songs. Like if I can't put myself into that cover song, then I don't cover it. And so it's just like really, that's like, I'll never play a cover song just like the original. Like it has to be just a little different. And that was a lesson that I got. It was just like, if anyone wants to hear the original, they're going to take a vinyl, take a record, put it on, and they're going to listen to it. So like, give them something different.
That's mad because, like, you know, when you go karaoke and you start doing the cover songs, you're like, man, my heart's not in this. But then you look at actual singers, they actually look at the little stuff that we don't see. Like, obviously, singers like us, singers like yourself, where we look at them, we're like, nah, my heart's not in this song. Just singing for the sake of singing it. But it's good to see that because, like, my wife, she sings as well. She was the one that was telling me to get you on the party. And I was like, he's here. But nah, it's really good because...
and she's good. Faith has shown me videos of her and her sisters like singing and stuff. I was like, oh, man.
Nah, they do well. Nah, I miss her singing too. So, it's good to see that.
No, but I mean, it's the same. It's kind of like, because you're a professional athlete, like in your line of work, you know what I mean? But if I went and started doing pickup footy, like, and I started doing stuff, you're like, why are you doing it like that? Or why you you're just winging it? And it's the same thing for like artists and musicians who are like well trained in it. It's kind of like when we look at a song, we look at it totally different. When I go to a performance and I watch a show, it's hard for me to just check out and not just like overanalyze what's going on the stage. And like usually at time, like, and it's hard sometimes even at church sometimes where I'm like, I'm watching the interaction between the bass player and the drummer and the bass player and the guitarist, and I'm like, oh, this person's really itchy and they want a solo right now. And they're soloing over this person. They just missed a moment. And like, I'm so focused on those things because that's just the way it is. It's the same as you watch like a rugby game. You're seeing all the stuff that happens where I'm just like, oh man, that guy just got smacked. Like, you know what I mean? And you're like, dude, no, like this guy did that for that reason, that reason. So it's the same with music. It's just a different puzzle, man.
The finer details within your craft, eh?
That's it,
like
man.
you could just always just be nitpicky at what that person's doing and that. Yeah, man.
But I've been learning the important thing lately that I've been trying to bridge my mind out of. Where someone's like, the comparisons is the stiller of joy. So it's like, even as an artist, you're always comparing yourself with other artists. You're always comparing your career with other people that are at your same level or higher or lower. You're like, I have more followers. I got more of this. Like, why is this person playing this festival and has this opportunity, but not me? And then sometimes, or you get a victory and you don't really celebrate those victories because you're so focused on the negative stuff. 100%. Like that idea is like, you can have a life that's 90% positive and 10% negative. You're going to focus and lose sleep over the 10% negative. And so I'm learning now, like, especially for the mental health stuff, is like how to celebrate and take a moment to just be like, hey, we just did that. That's amazing. It's okay. Let's not overthink it. Like, there'll be a time for me to go and do that other stuff. But for now, let's find a way to celebrate it. And that's been a journey for me lately. That's my own personal journey right now. We're our own worst critics.
100%. 100%. So now, obviously, you're out there touring it. What is the thing for you now? What's the goal? Is there a 5-year plan, or is there something that you want to keep pushing for? You obviously, baby number 2's coming.
Baby
Congratulations.
number 2. Thanks, brother.
Congratulations.
No, man, it's definitely, scaling it and stuff. For me now, it's really like the personal goal is kind of right now, like I have a lot of fans from The Voice, a lot of fans for some of the songs. So it's definitely getting that connection even more to where I show up to shows and the fans know all the music. So it's like creating and crafting better music so that we can have that and be able to kind of travel more broad. And like, that's why I did my first show in Sydney 2 years ago, which was really fun because I have a lot of my listenership is kind of international now. And so I like to get more international, play more festivals, to play more things, to kind of play more shows that like are really going to move the needle musically, because the idea is like, I really love to get to a place to where I'm touring like 6 months out of the year, and the other 6 months I'm able to just do family time. And for that to happen too, it's like, you got to have that business right so you can have more of the passive income on the other side of music. Because I feel like a lot of artists don't know like how much financially you can make from like owning your masters, owning your publishing, like through sync, getting your music on TV shows, like in ads and stuff like that. So learning and bridging that gap on that side of the music industry is kind of my goal right now, and just creating and getting more of my music out there to the world. And then hopefully, you know, to play some of these venues that I was a support artist for as a headline. And so that's kind of like my 5-year kind of plan. It's kind of jumbled, but that's kind of me. I'm kind of let's just go make things happen.
Yeah, that's mad, man.
Yeah.
Who are your mentors? I know, like John Legend. How was that, like, experience with those big guns that were on there?
Dude, it was crazy. Like, I don't want to blow it up to be more than what it was. You know, you don't get a crazy amount of time with those guys. Yeah. But those guys, the things that they spoke into me really changed my perspective.
Yeah.
You know, because what they, like, the things that they see that I could do that I thought so nonchalant about, they'd be like, hey, no, that's actually really special. Not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
Or, like, the ways that they kind of talked about, like, you know, not letting the overexcitement of an opportunity lead you to make a decision out of haste. Yeah. Because that's happened in the industry. You get the deal from the label that you really want, like, forever, you know what I mean? And then it's, the numbers aren't right. Yeah. But a lot of people don't care about that because they're like, dude, this is the biggest label. I might as well sign with them. They're going to change my life. Yeah. I think the best advice was, like, a lot of people think that the finish line is the label. Yeah. That's just the starting line. Yeah. Once you're out there, your work is just going to double. It's just going to triple. Yeah, so if your affairs and your business isn't right, you're just going to, like, the way my mental health is right now, it's like, that's just, you look at all the artists now, man, like, there's not a lot that you can say are happy. And so for me, it's like making sure my quality of life is an importance.
You feel like team's important, don't you reckon?
100%.
Like, because
team,
how did you find the confidence to be like, okay, you're in, I'll get you to do that. Yep, sweet, you're in my team now. Like, did you have anyone guide you through those steps of, like, your managers and all that? Because I know there's some managers out there, man. You obviously it's just up for
there's
that.
a lot of managers out there.
But there's a lot of managers out there. For the money out there. A lot of managers that take chances too. Like, I mean, even more so than the money. Like, it's almost like politicians, right? Like, they go and they run trials, but they don't have to deal with any repercussions of any of the trials that they do, right? Like, they're in office for a little bit and then they leave, and then they're like, oh, we washed our hands from that. We're good. We're set. And that's kind of how managers can be sometimes. Yeah. They run, like, a trial on an artist, things they think might work, and they get you into positions and things that the artist in the end has to pay for. Yeah. And I had to learn a lot of that from trial and error, and I'm still learning a lot of that. I think as far as, like, building a team, it kind of all ties down back to my old pastor, Jason Simpson. He said, it's easier to ask someone to step up than it is to ask them to step down. So choose wisely who you bring into your team. Wow.
True. I love that.
I love that.
That's a tough conversation, man.
You
bring
especially when it's your friends.
You bring a good mate in, and then you're like, oh man, I don't think this guy's a perfect spot. How am I going to let him down? I let him down easy, so we still maintain that relationship. Yeah. That's a good one. I love that one.
I had to learn that because it's like, you get bandmates, you get managers, you get booking agencies, you get, like, all this stuff, and you're like, okay, I got my team, and then you're like, oh wait, this isn't lining up. Like, I'm supposed to be doing their jobs less, but I'm doing their jobs more, and then I'm having to convince them to do their jobs. And I was like, okay, that's not good, and then you have to let them go. And so truthfully, like, I'm still working on finding that team and finding that family, like, it's in all assets and all facets of it, and then learning when I can bring in my siblings into that work, or if I can't. Like, it's definitely learning those boundaries and stuff. Like, I'm 28 years old, so I know what I know and I know what I don't know, and I'm still learning a hell of a lot. And so I think it's just being in a state of knowing that you're learning and being teachable. I think that's the most important thing. Be teachable, because if you aren't teachable, man, it's hard. It's you think you know it all.
It's hard. You got some of those people.
There's a lot of them out there.
You try to give them some advice, and they're like, "Okay, old head."
Yeah, I got you, man. But I got another way. No, I just told you.
Just spend an hour explaining to you why this isn't going to work, and you just it's like playing Call of Duty with a friend. You're like, "Hey, don't run inside because there's a group in there. They're going to shoot you." Okay, and they just run to the front door. You're like, "I told you, I'm down. Come pick me up."
Yeah. 100%, man. Nah, that's awesome, man. That's amazing. I'm really excited for the next chapter and the journey that you're in. Obviously, you got a strong wife, Faith. She's such an amazing woman, good friend of ours as well. And just amazing to see Ezekiel here as well. He's grown so much. Such
He's
a big boy
grown so
now, eh?
much.
So cute, man.
So,
And it,
yeah.
you know, man, like having kids, like it's the most important thing you do in life.
100%.
It's the most important thing, and I've learned that, and I've recognized that. It's like everything else I do, man. It's like I can't take any of that with me.
Yeah.
But I also know that my name is important.
Yeah.
And because of my name and like the repetition of that, that's gonna set my son up.
Yeah.
And so it makes me like I've got to live a certain lifestyle. I've got to push harder to do the things well.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people think that, like, you know, if you get a wife and you have a kid, it's going to be a distraction and you're not going to be able to do your work. You're not going to be able to do your thing. I'm like, that's the biggest lie ever. Because it's the biggest motivator to get out there and do it right.
100%.
It's the biggest motivator. And I think, like, even though my wife met me when I was on The Voice, I feel like she met me also when I was figuring a lot of things out. So I think finding someone when you're in a season of figuring things out is a great thing as well. Because I think I meet a lot of men that think, oh, I got to have it set up. I got to have the dream job. I got to have the dream life. Got to have all that, and then I can get the wife. The hardest part about that is that sometimes that wife or that spouse, not always, will love you for those things. Yeah. And as soon as those things are gone,
Where you at?
big surprise. So is she. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, so you need someone who's going to be in the trenches with you. That's going to. I remember my brother Ron. He was like, he's successful now. He's doing well. He's like, but when he first got married, he was like, there was times me and my wife split a cheeseburger at McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they had to do that. And I was like, dude, to find a woman who would do that with you and then like strategize with you on how to grow out of that stuff, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's why you wrote 3 songs for Faith, eh?
Yeah. Plus, you got to keep all the other ladies away and let them know. Hey,
That's
this
it.
song I love. I'm like, I wrote this song about my beautiful wife when I'm on stage and they're like, see everybody's heads go down. I'm like,
That's good.
I'm
awesome,
happily married.
That's it. That's it.
All right, man. We want to share a key message for our audience.
We love to have
Like,
key
obviously,
messages on this.
You know, we've got athletes come on and professional business leaders, and now we've got an artist that's sort of skyrocketed in America, now internationally. I want you to share us a key message, any key message that you can share. You've shared probably 20 of them already.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I
I
overshared.
like that one from the pastor too. That was me.
The pastors
Yeah.
was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, man, I would say there's only one you in the world. I think so many of us try so hard to be somebody that we're not. But when we do that, we end up getting in the queue of the rat race of life. So just go out there, be you, be the best you that you can be. Because like with that, you're not competing with anyone else. And it's a beautiful thing when you start to value the person that God made you and the person that you are. I lived for the longest time thinking that anything that I could say or do, someone had done or said before, so what was the point of saying or doing anything? And that was the biggest lie that I could have told myself. So I would say, man, like, just go out there, take life, you know, by the reins and do the best with it. And don't give up, man. It's just sometimes when you're in the trenches, it's just a season. You'll get through it, and the better days are coming.
Come on, bro.
Nice. I
Let's
love it.
go.
Hey, these
There we
key
go.
messages are just getting out.
We have to split them all
Hey,
in.
they're
and
just
then
growing, man.
let's
They're
go
just
on
getting
Instagram
better
like
and
that.
better
Cool,
and better
cool,
every
cool.
episode, man. I love that one.
And I appreciate it.
No, I
I
appreciate
really
your time.
appreciate your time. Thanks for singing too for us, man.
Yes.
Thanks for
Love
having
that.
me, guys.
Man,
Man, the song at the start, man. Ooh,
Ooh, I know. I was like
Blackbird
this.
singing in a-
I was like that. Oh man, I want
Tingles.
to harmonize now.
Yeah.
No.
Should have jumped on board, Eddie. He was saying that like you can sing, Eddie. Get on
Eddie,
board
you
next
gotta put
time,
that
mate.
harmony in there, bro.
Nah, me,
Buzz,
man.
get in there. Go ahead now.
Nah, I can't wait to share this on my platforms and stuff as
man,
well.
it'd
man.
be
Nah.
amazing.
Yeah,
Nah, it's
guys,
gonna be
keep
awesome.
supporting these dudes. Like
Yeah.
the best human beings ever. Like,
Thank
thank
you.
you
Nah,
guys
Thanks for
having
giving
me.
up your
you so
time,
much.
man. Just want to shout out to all our sponsors. Hey, we got a new sponsor too, by the way, Talent Locker. They just jumped on board, helping us out here. We'll give more information about that. But remember to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify and YouTube. If you've got any questions, throw them our way and we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Let's
Thunder.
go.
Sure.